Thank you. All right. I am super excited to be doing this. We do a lot of these with, we'll even set up and do individual workshops in here. I used to go and do these with Infusionsoft. That's where I met Denny, and actually Kimberly has attended a couple of those, and we even turned around and started doing these even at our office and stuff. And part of the power in this, like Denny just mentioned, is that you are taking the time to step away from your business and focus on your business instead of working in your business. And so that the more that you can commit to doing that, we're here to commit to that also. So I am super excited about all of the amazing things we're gonna be doing. You guys are already so far ahead of just starting, nobody in here is super beginner. So we were actually able, I want you guys to know, we had kind of a different lesson plan that we'll normally do with this kind of event. And because we did all the pre-interviews and we know where all of you guys are at, we actually completely adjusted the schedule and stepped everything up and took it to the next intermediate level. So we're able to get you guys even further. So I'm super stoked about everything we're gonna do. Like Denny said, this is going to be, the format is going to be, we're gonna step up, we're gonna walk through a few things, we're going to make sure that everybody understands, and then we will actually spend some workshop time. And during that time, you guys will actually be working right on your stuff. I need to introduce my team, so before I tell you that they're gonna all be helping you. So everybody knows Kyla. Kyla, stand up. Kyla. Kyla is amazing. She is our automations person. I met Kyla, ironically. So Kyla has been working for me for a little over 3 years, but I've actually been working with her for about 5 years. I met her when a client of mine actually was transitioning their entire business over to Infusionsoft, and I had to teach them how to run their business and the CRM side of things and everything like that. So I went in and I taught all of them, and Kyla was their main point person. And so I worked with them for a couple of years and set up all of their systems and things, and then she said that she was ready to look for another job, and so I hired her. But I mean, I did talk to my client, and we're still clients, and we're still friends and everything. But so it was pretty awesome. I trained her for 2 years before she started working with me. So she has, I know, talked with each of you guys individually. She'll be floating around and helping with all of the implementation. Kyla is also Infusionsoft certified and Membarium certified and does ClickFunnels and all the things. And often now I'll even be like, hey, there's a new webinar system. Can you figure out how this integrates? And she'll just go do it. So she's amazing. Thank you so much, Kyla, for everything you do and for being here. Also, Carrie Lynn, my very good friend, Carrie Lynn Rodenberg. And Carrie Lynn I have known for, I don't even know how many years as well. Carrie Lynn is also an Infusionsoft partner. I worked with her at many accelerators. Carrie Lynn's real secret sauce is she is the copy girl. She is the one that will help find the words that sell or help your customers in exactly the way that you need to. And she just has this amazing ability to drill in and find out exactly what the thing is that makes you unique and different. And so I've asked her to come, so she's actually going to be sharing on Friday. And so she's gonna teach some of that secret sauce to you guys and help you get set for the right way that you need to in your marketing, the way you're positioning and those kinds of things. So super excited. Carrie Lynn knows websites and knows Infusionsoft and knows Membarium and all the things. So she is another floater that will be helping when we're doing workshop time. And Denny will be floating in and out, like she said. She's awesome. And then we have John. So thank you, John. Hello. And he'll be running around with the cameras. And he may ask some of you guys to kind of step out as we go, for some sort of testimonial, or make sure that we're teeing things up, that you guys have all of your expectations set for now and know what they are. And then we know what they are, so that we're going to be meeting them at the end. So we're just going to really dig in with this small group. It's going to be awesome to really spend all that personal time. Micah Mitchell is perfect timing. So everybody knows Micah, and I'll bring him up in a few minutes. We're gonna let him kind of get mic'd up and introed and everything, but Micah is half of the mastery of Membarium, and I've known Micah for quite a few years, and I love him so much, and he offered to be here and help teach a lot of his genius. So he's got a lot of really, really great do's and don'ts and best practices and things that we need to look for when we're setting up membership sites, because he's been doing this forever. So he's amazing. I'm so excited he's going to be here to help us with all this. Let's see. Okay, we have done this and taught people how to do their membership site. So let me back up just a little bit. Part of what we do at Formula Done is not just build things for people, because we can build them, and then if you don't know how to use it, or your team doesn't know how to use it, it's not gonna get used, and it's just a big giant waste of money. So we know that you're gonna have to understand the process and how things are set. So we've actually broken this whole process down into the simplest that we can for the level that you guys are at. And it may seem kind of weird, the different direction that we're going through. So it may be like, why aren't we talking about this yet? But I promise there's actually a complete method to our madness. We are going to take you guys through the steps in what is the easiest way, that we've found the easiest way, so that you're able to absorb, learn, retain, use, and then we'll just keep building on that and building on that as the lessons and time goes by. So you guys are gonna walk away here with a complete, full understanding. So trust the process. I promise it's gonna feel weird. And then we are, like Denny said, we're gonna be recording this stuff, and so we'll have the different breaks and stuff. So as questions come up, we do have some mics and everything on the room. So as questions come up, we may do kind of the repeat of the question just so that it's clear, it's on camera, and like that kind of stuff. So that also when you guys are watching it in the future and you don't maybe hear what it is, that you remember what somebody asked and what it is that I'm yammering about up here. All right, finally, one other thing that I just want to talk about. So we are here to make sure that you guys are getting not only a complete understanding of everything that we're doing, but also a very specific understanding of how it fits into your business. And I'm sorry, I keep trying to stand to the side of the podium here because I'm super short, so kind of crowding your table here. Anyway, so what we want to make sure is that you do have this specific to work with your business, right? So we are going to be hitting your specific questions and make sure that we're getting your needs answered. If there's a question that comes up in kind of a general session here that may be, that looks like it might kind of go down a rabbit hole or just your super specific needs, we're just gonna table that. We're just gonna say, hey, that's like a deep dive question. And the next workshop breakout that we have, remind me or grab Kyla or myself, and we will make sure that you get that addressed. We just wanna make sure that we're able to address everybody's questions as we go through, so, yes.
I may be in the wrong place, but I'm trying to log on to the internet here.
Thank you. Oh, if you go down towards the bottom where it says a code, and it asks for a code, and you put in that OCT18 conf, that should get you in. Is everybody else connected to the Wi-Fi? Yep, okay, good. All right. Okay, I think with that we've covered all the rest of the housekeeping process. Any other questions on that before we dive in? No? Okay, so I just want you guys to know, we do understand that even though you guys are all advanced, that we do still have people at different levels. And so one of the amazing things that Micah has done is really been able to come up with a way for you to kind of self-identify where you're at in your membership site development so that you know the things you're going to be focusing on and the things that you're going to need to work on next to get to the next level. So Micah is going to spend the morning kind of going through some really awesome ways of identifying different levels of membership sites and different client paths and things like that. And we will be having breakout times sort of in between to work on those things. I didn't, oh yeah, we did talk about restroom breaks and stuff. If during a workshop break, if you guys need to run out as well, like it's seriously open, fun time, right? All right, so I am going to bring up Micah and grab all my stuff. Do you need, you've got your computer, right? Okay, so we'll just switch everything out. So I don't know if we need to do a, I don't have a whole intro prepared, but Micah is seriously super amazing, you guys. CEO, co-owner of Membarium, and he's been doing this for longer than me. And he's gonna teach you guys some really awesome stuff. Do you need power cord?
I'll throw it in, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Just steal all your stuff.
All right. So, I didn't get yours or anything. That's kind of a bad intro, but
No, you're great.
you guys all know Micah. Take it away, man.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, is my mic, is there actually sound in the room or is this just recording?
No, there's no sound in the room.
Okay, it's just a good acoustics in here, right? You guys can hear me okay? Yeah. Is this your workstation? That's amazing. I like it.
The first person that said that.
I love it. Jeez. Serious. All right, so what I'd like to do, because I do have a presentation that we'll jump into, and I'll, I'm sure I got to do something. While I'm doing that, I'd like to just kind of get to know you guys. Did you already do introductions of each other? So if we can just do like a quick little 1 minute each person, because then I can tailor this a little bit to you. So if we'll start over here, if you can just share your name and where you're from and kind of what type of membership site you're trying to build.
My name is Jeff Reich, and we currently have a really successful landlord membership site that, that we've been doing for 3 years, and I know nothing at all about the technology of it. And I'd really like to understand that so that we can go into other verticals to do membership sites. So
That's pretty cool. When you say a really successful landlord site, do you mind sharing the number?
we make about $40,000 a month from this, and we have a cycle of about 5 months for an average person to stay a member, and then they've gotten pretty much what we have to give them. So we have about 12 months worth of material that we're at this point just recycling. It's not even a part-time job. It's fantastic. And we're giving great value because it's the same issue that comes up again and again and again, just with different people. So I'm such a huge fan of membership sites, and I really would like to understand the deep technology behind it so that we can go into other things. So we've done landlording. We would like to go into helping dentists better understand how to be good businessmen, especially how to handle the phones and how to handle their teams and things like that. All of the non-clinical stuff, and that's where we're headed now.
Gotcha. Jeff, right?
Jeff, yep, and I'm
So-
from Salt Lake City.
Oh, great to meet you. I just drove down from Spanish Fork last night. It's no fun. Let's give Jeff a hand, guys. So thank you for sharing, and congratulations. That sounds amazing. It's good to know, too. And the only thing I'll ask is, let's try to keep it under 1 minute. I asked a follow-up question. That wasn't your fault, but go ahead.
So I'm Aaron Rumbaugh. I'm coming with Blitzmetrics. We're a digital marketing company. We have our own clients, but we also have our membership site that teaches digital marketing through courses and one-on-one training with our specialists. We're pretty new. Our membership site we're only about 6 months old, so we're still kind of in the starting stages of it, trying to get everything completed. So.
Cool. Well, thank you.
From Utah County.
Oh, wow. Cool. Let's give him a hand. All right. Jen, could you help me a little? I don't know how to get this to come up here. Thank you. Bill.
Bill Crawford. I'm from the suburbs of Chicago. I own Rainmaker Internet Marketing. We primarily do digital marketing for contractors. So when we get used by a contractor, we kind of do everything. We've grown our business through referrals, and what I want to use the membership site for is top of the funnel to establish new contacts in the contractor role.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's give him a hand. So, Bill, Aaron, Jeff, let's come back here. Susan?
Hi, Susan Lasseter-Lyons from Rancho Mirage, California. I've had membership sites for a long time, and I think I first started like with Wishlist Member back in 2009 or something crazy when I built my first, kind of password protected site. But I've been in the midst of kind of a business pivot. So previously I was teaching real estate investing, specifically how to raise capital. And in the last year and a half, I've done a pivot to financial publishing. So we have subscription investment newsletters for income investors and growth investors. And I have an existing membership site. It's kind of like a coaching and Q&A site that it's now on its like third iteration, and you know, some of the people have stuck around. It's like, oh, what are we doing now? Now we're doing income investing. Okay, you know. So I think what I realized over the course of this rebrand and this business pivot is that technology has kind of passed me by. And even though, you know, I use Infusionsoft and I've been, you know, a very happy customer of Memberium for, you know, probably a couple of years now, I realized that I really need to start paying better attention to like the customer experience and the user interface and kind of the bells and whistles just of the site itself to deliver the experience that I really want to deliver to my subscribers. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Let's give her a hand. And some of you I know already, but part of this is for everyone's benefit to know who else is here. Go ahead.
I'm Ann Kelsch. I'm from Philadelphia. My husband and I have a website in the photography e-learning space, I guess. Nick Kelsch he's the photographer, and it's sort of a very personality-based teaching. Basically, in that he makes everything, you know, simple, easy for people in the what we call the memory-keeping space. Moms, grandmothers, scrapbookers is our audience. There's no reason we couldn't have a broader audience, but that's our niche for now. We use Memberium to deliver our courses. We have 4 online courses that we've been using, but we are long overdue to get a subscription membership up. And so we're a small team of 1. so I've been overwhelmed and need to dig in and either learn the technology myself or figure out, you know, what it's all about so that I can then hire somebody hopefully to take this on. But I'm here to try to get a membership. You know, we've tossed it around for several years and it's just long overdue that we get it going. So.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. Give Ann a hand. All right, over here.
My name is Kimberly Morgans. I'm from Stockton, California. We have 5 businesses, and we started one in Memberium last year in October, and that one's been going well, and my husband runs and maintains that one. And for me, it's time for me to learn the techie stuff because it's not my forte. But I do a lot of speaking, and I teach women how to delegate. And I have a delegating boot camp where to get it done, kind of create your own delegating manual so that you can walk out and your business doesn't fall to pieces. And so that's what I'm here to create and dig into it and learn how to do it. And excited, and like my brain does not wrap around this technology well. So I'm excited to walk home with some stuff that's done and the opportunity to learn that.
Sounds like most people who are excited about the technology can do it for you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm doing that, but I have a lot of harebrained ideas that, like, and it has to be in the moment because of what's happening around the world, what's happening in this moment in regards to women and so on and so forth. It's a little hard sometimes to, like, get a hold of somebody and have it created right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you want to be empowered a little bit?
Yes. I want to be able to have both. I want to delegate stuff out, but I also want to be able to do my crazy stuff.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kimberly. Let's give her a hand. All right.
Hi, my name is Julianne Mills. I'm from the Central Coast of California. Here with my husband. We're both developing wellness businesses. I am developing deep soul healing. I'm a psychic quantum healer and developing healing courses, and have a coaching business and wellness business, and creating a membership to facilitate teaching others how to heal themselves from trauma and emotional experiences. And really looking forward to learning about this. I too am new to the techie part of building the membership, so really excited about the workshop time so I can learn how to build this and then use it. We have a lot of other things going on too. We're building 4 or 5 different avenues of our business right now. So and also a mom of 3 teenagers, a homeschool mom of 10 years. And so raising 3 thriving adolescents.
That's awesome. Give Julie a hand. I'll have to talk to you guys because we're trying to homeschool our 3 boys, and first one is 13. James?
Hi, James Mills, with my wife Julie, founder and co-creator of the Wowsome Living Institute. The brands that we're here, as Julie mentioned, Healing Goddess Academy, and then also Conscious Sobriety is one of our brands. It's I'm a certified professional recovery coach and holistic life coach, and so it's a way to help people that are in the recovery lifestyle to develop and step into their best alcohol-free life and living. So we're definitely wanting to build a sense of community. These are new works for us, and so we want to build a community and incorporate a membership site into that. And so that's why we're here.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Give James a hand. All right.
Nick Warlow, originally from England, now living in Thousand Oaks, California. We run a company with my wife, supporting coaches in their business. And we just have a ton of courses. She just kind of spits out a course every month or something. It's just like craziness. So we've been through Optimized Press back in the day. We did the Infusionsoft one, I can't remember what it was called.
Customer.
Yeah. Did that one. That put us on to Teachable, Thinkific. We're now currently with Kajabi. I just can't deal with these companies. There's features that I want and they just can't give them to me, so I'm just totally claiming back the power to kind of, be omnipotent within my membership sites. So I've got a small project here that's, if I learn all the stuff for the small project, I can transfer it to the big project.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming. Give him a hand. All right, and I don't really need the presentation. How many of you guys have heard the 4 stages thing before, just by show of hands? Has anyone? Okay, so it seems, so do you guys have the worksheet already? Yeah, that's the one. So basically, the reason that I feel like it's very important to start here, and I wanted to kind of get a feel for where you guys are, which I'm glad I did because I thought it was a little bit more of a beginner crowd. It sounds like you guys are pretty experienced, but kind of where this came from is my experience as a consultant was kind of rough because I would talk to people and they'd come to me and say, oh, can you help me with memberships? Sure, what do you want? And they would explain this big crazy thing, right? They'd say, I want exactly what Ryan Deiss has, but for sewing or for dogs or whatever, right? And they want the community, they want all the bells and whistles. We heard about technology, bells and whistles and stuff, and that's all great and that has a place, but it would be hard for me as the consultant to tell the customer, they'd say, I want this, this, and this, and it's like, I know that's not gonna work for you. You're not ready, you know what I mean? You don't have the budget, the experience, etc. But telling them that, they just think, well, you don't understand my vision, so forth. So that's where these 4 stages came from, and I hope they're really helpful. And I'll just jump through them real quick to introduce them. But kind of the premise is most membership sites fail. So I know this is like, oh, membership happiness, and positivity and whatnot, and that's great too, but most membership sites fail. And has anyone here ever had a course or membership not work out the way they planned? Couple nods, yeah, hands. And there's some reasons for that, and that's what these 4 stages help with. It's kind of like to diagnose where you are and then to make recommendations based on your stage. So I'll just jump right through them real quickly. So stage 1 is infancy. And I think there's a place on the worksheet to fill some of this in, but in stage 1 infancy, you have between 0 and 10 members billing per month. So if you do courses instead of subscriptions, we're talking about billings. So 0 to 10 billings per month for your membership site, you're in infancy. So if you already have a membership site and you're working on a new idea, you're still in infancy. And that's something a lot of people also forget is the failure rate is kind of the same when you restart. I've failed at membership sites in the last 2 years, right? And we'll talk about that when I go through the mistakes on the 3rd day here. But so stage 1 is 0 to 10, and the main problem is you just don't know what you're doing. Or if you're like adapting a new technology, you may just need to learn some technology. It sounded like several people wanted to handle the technology part. And the main opportunity is if you can get that nailed down and get kind of a pilot or version of your product out, even if it's basic, then you can test the market. So that's the opportunity is there a market here for what I'm selling? Kind of how good is the response, et cetera. So that's stage one, pretty straightforward. Probably a lot of people in here could skip stage one in most cases. You probably jump above 10 members with your existing list and connections. In stage two, it's from 10 to 100 members billing per month, or one-time sales per month. So from 10 to 100 is stage two. This is childhood, and this is where the main problem is that you just don't have enough members yet. So if you get 11 members, who cares? Life sucks. You're building a membership site for 11 people, it's not cool. Unless your price is crazy, it's probably not worth it, time for money exchange. And so what you have to do at that point, once you're out of infancy, is you have to sell like crazy. And the big temptation for people is, I'm going to build, I'm going to add bells and whistles instead of selling. So they basically, consciously or unconsciously, avoid selling because they're more comfortable with creating content and courses and that kind of thing. And it's not a judgment on anyone, it's just saying it's kind of a pattern, right? So in stage two, the focus needs to be completely on sales. So the problem is you don't have enough sales yet, you're not making enough money off of this membership site to reinvest your time and energy back into it. Does that make sense? So your goal is sales, 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 sales. And if you got your initial sales off a sales letter, just as a couple examples, your big opportunity is to find more channels for leads and more ways to convert people. Make a sales video, do a sales webinar, find some affiliates, whatever, run some ads. It's all sales. And this is where most memberships fail, is people build it, they get a weak response on their offer, and then they say, oh, it's because it doesn't have a community, I better add a community. And then they go add a community and it's still weak. It's because their sales suck, their marketing sucks, right? So in stage two, until you're over 100 billings per month, sales, all focus on sales. Once you're above that, because here's the thing, if you instead build bells and whistles, it may never sell. And I had an experience with somebody, I'll just high level it, where they wasted about $100,000 doing stuff like this, paying for softwares and consulting and all these different things, and they built a site for people who didn't want to buy it. They never made any money off a $100,000 site, and their argument the whole time was, well, we can't introduce it to anybody because it'll ruin our brand if it's not great going out the gates. These people are high level, blah, blah, blah. Well, it never worked because people they were selling to, which was corporate executives, didn't think that they should buy training for themselves. They thought the company should provide it, which they could have found out early by testing a stupid little product, right? They could have solved that problem early, and that's why I say right here, if you can't sell past 100, don't build more stuff. Got it? So that's stage two. In stage three, which is adolescence, that's from 100 to 500. So it's a bigger range here. And the big challenge in adolescence is you start losing customers. You have enough that the loss of some customers starts to add up, right? So in adolescence, your biggest problem is retention. And so what you're trying to do there is, this is where you can add bells and whistles. You can add a community. You can enhance the user's experience because you've proven by getting past 100, hey, it might be worth investing more time into this. And also in stage two, if you're using a good automated platform like Infusionsoft, typically the sales you automate keep coming. Like you've built a funnel which delivers sales. So as you improve the product, it's receiving people. If you can keep them longer, growing the business, right? So that's stage three, is adolescence. Again, from 100 to 500, the main problem is retention, and this is the stage you want to improve the site, not beforehand. And I'll give a disclaimer at the end here a little bit, but stage four is maturity. This is above 500 members, and this is where the focus, first of all, the problem at this point is not only is churn becoming even more significant because your numbers are higher, but also sometimes you start to saturate markets a little bit. So as you get above 500, it's like, okay, well, I'm kind of in most of the channels, I'm doing pretty well, how else can I grow this? And that's why in maturity, somewhere around there, your strategy should actually shift to creating more products to sell those same members. So yeah, you can scale up the numbers. If you can get more members, thousands, great, do it. However, around that point, it makes a lot of sense to build another product because a certain percent are going to automatically buy it, it's automatically profitable. So this is why I say somebody coming to me and saying, I want all this stuff was such an issue because I didn't have this framework to explain to them that, look, you're shooting yourself in the foot. If you build a community before you get started, the first people are going to walk in, it's going to be a ghost town, they're never going to come back because the community is worthless, right? Don't add it until stage three when there's enough people to put into it. Don't try to sell a mastermind to your 100 members because your conversion rate is going to be 1 or 2% and you can't have a mastermind with 2 people, right? But if you have 500, you get 1 or 2%, you're doing okay. It's a little different. Obviously, if you can improve the percentage, that's better. But that's kind of the premise of the 4 stages. Is this making sense to you guys? Yeah, are there any questions so far? Yeah.
You're referencing monthly sales. A lot of my stuff is annual recurring.
Mhm.
Same kind of thing, or is there?
You could call that a billing a month if you wanted to. Do you have a monthly plan also? Monthly option?
For one of them, but
Okay.
like for the subscription newsletters, it's all annual.
Yeah, I would count that as an active member. So you could say active members per month, billings per month, kind of. So here's the disclaimer. The disclaimer is, obviously these numbers are not static. You know what I mean? Your market might be different. If your price point is very high, you could probably cut these numbers down. If your price point is very low and your market is very big, you could increase these numbers. You know, if it's like an app and it's $5 a month or something, maybe go for twice as much, 3 times as much, right? So this is just a basic concept, and the reason that I wanted to start with this is then as we do introduce bells and whistles and strategies and technology, you can actually think, okay, that's fancy, but I don't need it yet. Let me put it on the back burner and focus here where I'm going to get the result. So, and Jen, how are we on time, by the way? Yeah, well, and I think I know how long I was supposed to be. I just don't know what time it is. I need handlers because I'm not very organized. Sorry.
I'll give you some cues, but here's what we're
Thank you.
trying to stick to.
And what's the time now?
10:36.
10:36. Okay, so we've got a couple more minutes, and then the workshop piece was to determine the position in the core. What I'll do, we don't have this, and so what I'll do is I'll explain a couple of things, and Jen might recap some of these, but I'll just look at them here as a quick guide and then explain a couple of them. So there are solutions to these things. For example, and just as a quick recap, so infancy, you're focused on the basics. Childhood, you're focused on sales. Adolescence, it's retention. And maturity, it's other products. And so the specific things you start doing, and what I'm going to do now, basically, that was the overview, and then I'm going to kind of expand on each stage a little bit. So in stage 1, some things that you can do. Yeah, can I get one of those?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so if you go over to the next page, let's first of all do this, and then we'll go through the stages. So go ahead, if you would, and just throw on the date and your site name and the number of members you currently have. And again, if it's a new project, that's 0. And then just identify your stage. Yes?
So for my membership, it's going to be new, so
Mhm.
it'll be 0, but I do know from launching stuff in the past, I mean, we expect to launch with 1,000 plus, so how do I consider my stage?
Have you built the site yet?
We have a site that is built,
Mm.
a partner with having
So-
it up and running.
So she's got a good question. Anne's asking basically, she knows her site's going to rocket past infancy because of past experiences. She's still in infancy. And what I would say is still yes. Like, so your focus is still launching it. And as soon as it's out the door and launched, then focus on sales. Not that you can't have multiple tracks and get things going if you have experience, sure. And I want to point out too, this isn't in any way meant to restrict anybody. It's to give you guys a framework. So use it. If you don't like it, throw it out. You know what I mean? But you could say, so you think you'll get to maturity immediately?
Yeah, we basically, when 8 years ago,
Mhm.
we launched a tip of the day, and we sold, at launch, we sold 12 to 1,300 of them, but we didn't have a membership site, we just sold it as a one-price, cheapy, one-price thing, and my husband only he was creating the tips one day ahead before that.
Gotcha.
So, and then he couldn't sustain it after a year, so it sort of died. We went in all sorts of directions after that, with our courses, with live workshops, blah, blah, blah. But we have a list of 25,000. I know that when we bring this back,
Mm.
I just know based on what we get in our courses, or, we're selling live workshops, that I know that we're going to do
Yeah.
against that number.
Yeah, and if you want to adjust, if you know you'll skip to like 3, for example, and you want to focus on that, you can do that. What I'd also say is potentially for you, if it's that easy to get that many members, add a 0 to all these goals. You know what I mean? So like 1,000 is your adolescence, basically. And that way you'll focus on sales long enough. So does everyone know what stage they're in? Does anyone have any questions about what stage they're in? Okay, so what is your main problem? And obviously this might change as you learn and hear ideas and whatever, but right now, coming to this, what did you think your main problem was? So just write that down. Is it technology? You know, maybe it was something you said in the intro. And Jen, if you want me to email it to you.
I already did.
Okay, sorry. And as we go through this, feel free to come back to this page, cross it out, and write a new problem if you think it changes. But that's kind of what this is for, is to help you keep a focus. And I'm going to give you a bunch of ideas in just a moment here. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So just with the main problem, thank you very much. If you guys are ready, is everybody ready to have your main problem down? Okay. Okay, perfect. So here are kind of some recommendations, right? So in stage 1, and these are, even if you're not in this stage, please pay attention to the concepts here because they're useful all over the place. So in stage 1, this is where starting with a smaller course first can help quite a bit. A lot of people think, hey, I have this whole curriculum in my head. If I'm going to make a membership site, it's all going in, right? And they'll delay the launch of their site because it's not perfect. And so what you want to do is you want to start with the smallest course first. You want to take what you can sell for $7, $97, whatever it is, get that out and start selling it immediately instead of obsessing over your big, grand vision. And the idea is you're just going to learn quicker, you're going to get feedback, that loop's going to be tighter. There's a couple easy ways to do this. Record a few videos, that's easy. You can do a webinar series, that's really valuable. So the reason I say that is if you have any problem creating content, just doing it live and recording it is a great way to get something out for a test project. So versus obsessing and writing and rewriting slides and all this kind of stuff, just do a webinar series, invite some people, let them have some Q&A and all that, and you'll learn a lot more that way. Or doing a live event is a great way, obviously, to create membership content. And what I'm saying is in the beginning, if that's a roadblock, do that. The other thing, though, is you can test free versions. Like if you think your product name, your membership's name is going to be whatever, right? Barn Painting Deluxe, whatever. Write a blog post with the same name and see if it actually works and gets a response. Same thing, make some videos, put them on YouTube, and just test some things. And time spent here testing this stuff out and getting it figured out with blog posts and YouTube videos and webinars probably seems silly because you're so confident in whatever you think you're going to do, especially if you're already the subject matter expert. But you can learn a lot more here a lot quicker than building a course, testing it out, having to change the name, rebrand, and all that kind of garbage. In stage 2, like I said, change the medium. So sales letter, sales video, sales webinar. One thing people overlook is using a membership as an upsell to something else. So sometimes a membership isn't the best standalone thing to sell, right? But if you have any other product and you can include the membership with it, that's a great way to add memberships to your business as well. And the most overlooked one is just selling over the phone to existing clients. So especially if you have a new concept, just calling a couple of your better clients and just saying, hey, would you buy this thing? Or better yet, not theoretically would you buy it, but can I put you down for this? Can I add you to this membership? And they'll hopefully be honest with you and tell you why or why not, or what they would like in it, or whatever. And that's why I say your best clients, people not just that pay you the most and are easy, but people who will kind of give you some feedback, if that makes sense. But in this stage, like I said, it's all about cracking the code of what's going to make this thing sell. Because the hardest part of memberships is usually communicating that, hey, my thought process or whatever it is I'm offering in this membership site, the intellectual property, is going to be very valuable to you, right? You got to figure out how to explain that in your sales and marketing. In level 3, it's all, like I said, this is the bells and whistles. This is the gamification, the LearnDash, the community, the early buy-in and accountability. What that's referring to is right from the beginning, it's all about onboarding for retention. So if you think, oh, now I need to retain members, and you go and you try to save your people at month 4, 5, 6, 7, wherever they're canceling, that's a lot harder than having just onboarded them properly in the beginning because they'll just have a better outlook and experience through the whole site. So we'll dive into more detail there in just a moment. And then in step 4, having advanced content, meaning, hey, I've done this membership, it's got hundreds or thousands of members, let me do like a premium version and sell it for a higher price to a smaller portion of those people, but it's still worth it. Group coaching, small group type stuff, doing a mastermind, any other product you can think of, softwares, widgets. And at this point, this is where you're now focusing on upsells and cross-sells. So anywhere I'm selling something, what can I upsell or downsell off the back of it? So that's the in-funnel upsell. And for those of you with multiple courses, If you aren't doing upsells and downsells, you're just losing money. I know it's cliche, it's always like, oh, you're leaving money on the table, but it's just like, it's crazy. If you're not doing upsells and downsells, if you have multiple products, that would be the thing you should do immediately, because it could pay someone to do all the other crap you're thinking of doing. So that's the in-funnel upsell. The inside upsell is when members log in. You can offer them content. Kind of some ninja stuff you can do with that is you can say, hey, when a new member signs in, let's say they sign up for gold, don't just immediately offer them platinum. Let them experience gold for a couple days. Let them log in 3 times or get past module 2 or whatever the condition is that, hey, they're this far along, they should be pretty happy. Now let's offer platinum, right? So you can do inside upsells, behavior-based, and then email upsells. Obviously, campaigns in Infusionsoft based on whatever you want to, just like you always could in Infusionsoft. So these are some high-level strategies of saying, hey, here's a bunch of different directions depending on stage that you can look at going. And then we'll dive into a couple of them a little bit here. So live events, I mentioned that. One of the reasons, and I think this group's a little more experienced, so I'll just breeze through some of this content stuff, but there's a credibility shot, which would be like that camera picking up the back of your heads with someone on stage. That creates more credibility than me talking over slides, you know, in my basement kind of a thing. And the customer doesn't know how to tell unless there's an audience and they're clapping and smiling and asking questions and that kind of thing. Like I said, easy way to create a ton of content. You can get paid to do it by selling tickets. You get the Q&A if you run mics around, that could be really valuable. And you get other speakers. So for example, Jen is recording me, and so she's getting several hours of content for a membership site, you know, for nothing really. Other goodies to include, so here's a couple ideas. So obviously if you have other products and services, you can provide discounts on them to your existing members. That could be a bonus. Office hours and webinars. These are kind of like things to add to your video course, right? So webinars, you know, it used to be more popular where a lot of memberships would include a webinar a month, right? Extra training, whatever, Q&A. But that for a site owner kind of sucks. I don't know how many of you have done that, but I've done that and it gets old at some point, and then your content gets watered down. It's not good for anybody. So office hours can be a lot better, which is where some people train on office hours. That's fine if you want to, or have a theme for an office hours. We've done them just open-ended, you know, just pretty much a Q&A. And that's great, because you just show up. There's no stress. You just show up, you answer questions, you record it, you post the recordings. Great thing to add to a membership site. This part here, the critique certificates and 911 calls, this is, I think I got most of this from GKIC, these ideas. But the critique certificate is where you can tell your member that, hey, once you get past module 3, and once you've done whatever I'm telling you to do, you earn a critique certificate, which is where I'll look at your work and critique it. So that's a better use of a client interaction than saying, hey, as a new member, you get a free 30-minute call with me. Because you know what they're going to do during that free 30-minute call? They're going to ask all the dumb questions that are in the first 30 minutes of your videos, right? They definitely are. So this is saying, hey, this is better for both of us. My time is protected and positioned, and you are actually forced to do some work. I'm holding you accountable to do the training, do the work, and then you get this thing, which the overall experience for the client is going to be amazing, right? They're forced to do the work, they're forced to learn, do it, then they get critiqued from the expert. They're going to be more successful, right? So this is not to be rude to anybody, but it does allow you to ethically say, look, I can't just talk to everybody. You got to show me you're serious, I'll talk to you. The 911 call is more of a bonus thing where you can say, hey, look, if you pay annually, or if you're a platinum member, once a year you can have a 911 call, which is where if you have a big problem, big opportunity, you just need to pick my brain or whatever, right? Then you can schedule that and we can do that. So these are cool things to include. These I like especially because they can help you market and sell the site, but you don't necessarily have to deliver on it immediately, if that makes sense. So it's saying that I can add value to my membership site for the people who are going to be good students, which honestly, for me anyways, I don't mind doing anyways. In one of our sites, if you earn 1,000 points, you can get a consult. I love those consults because the people have been through the training, they kind of know what to ask, you know what I mean? They already like me if they're going to watch that many videos, I would hope. So delivering something physical, again from GKIC, and this didn't learn from them, I just experienced it myself, which is I signed up for their membership site and I get a magazine and interview transcript and a swipe file and all this physically, like in the mail. I don't think it costs them a lot, but I've never been to their membership site, never logged in, and I'll never quit. And I'm very much a membership guy, an online kind of person, but I love getting something I can read when I'm not on my computer. So that's something to think about. We mentioned real briefly the onboarding part. And what I'm going to do, Jen, because we're already filling out the worksheet a little bit, which is part of the workshop, is that okay if I blend in a little of the time? Cool. So the key to retaining members is onboarding, and you can design this from the beginning to be pretty good. Don't get obsessed with it until you know you can sell. But some ideas. The main one, kind of obvious one, is a first-time welcome video. So the first time they log in, and especially with Membarium, this is easy. You can do it even per membership level. But you can say, hey, the first time they log in, send them to a specific video. On the technical end, you could force them to accept terms and conditions. But what I like to do is welcome them and reinforce why they became a member, and then say, and by the way, I don't mind sharing these slides with all of you. I can give them to Jen and she can distribute them. You're welcome to take pictures too, but happy to share them. Anyways, you get them to a video that reinforces, kind of resells them on why they joined the membership, congratulates them for logging in, for getting started, and then tells them where to get the quickest win. Like, hey, new member, this is where you should go and what you should do. And that's part of this quick start is, here's the number one thing you need to do as a new member. Or, maybe the top 3 things if they're very small, right? But you want to avoid this feeling, which is what most people do. Hey, I'm providing all this value. There's a community, there's this, there's that, there's all these different resources, and they look at it and they're like, what, I don't know I'm a beginner. That's why I'm here, so what should I do, And that's this. So you give them a welcome video, you give them a quick start. You can ask for feedback early. This is where you say, hey, tell us what you like and don't like about the membership so far. And it sounds, like it'd be too early to ask that, but actually them giving input commits them more to the membership, commits them more to looking about it, thinking about it. They're bought in to see what you're going to do with their feedback and all of those things. And even, you want to implement the feedback, but even before you've implemented it, there's already retention built just in asking. You can get them to customize their experience. This is kind of the best of all worlds, which is where they either come in and they say, well, I'm either beginner, intermediate, or advanced, and based on that, you put them into the proper videos or what, or they customize it and they say, hey, there's a fitness site. Right now, I can run this fast, and my goal is this, and let's put some numbers to it, right? Any way they can customize their experience. Some other examples are when people go into a membership and they're prompted to set up their community profile and go in and say hi in the forum, right? Any way you can get them to interact early is helpful. One kind of interesting thing is this endowed progress effect. We've started using this more and more, and we're trying to design it into some of the new Membarium stuff that's going to be out. And it's if you provide some type of artificial advancement toward a goal, then the person will be more motivated to complete the goal. And what this is like is this car wash card. So this card is going to be more valuable to somebody than a card with no stamps. Yes or no? Yes. Right. Even if they stamp them all, this card of 10 with 2 stamped is better than an 8-punch card with no stamps, right? They still have to do 8 stamps either way, it doesn't matter. But the perceived value and their perceived progress is very different because it reduces the amount of perceived work, but there's also something called task tension, which is where started but unfinished tasks are thought of more than those that aren't started yet. So if you can give them the perception when they buy, for example, by auto-logging them in once they buy, hey, welcome, part 1's done, you've logged in for the first time, congratulations, you're 11% of the way there, whatever, right? Part 2, get this quick win, the progress bar moves. This experience is much better for them than, I got this thing, I guess, this weekend I'll dive into it if I have time, right? They want the benefit, they don't want to get started. And so you auto-logging them in, hitting them with a video that's like, you're awesome, congratulations, you're going to get all these things, all you have to do is this, is a quick, get them going. So on the fun side a little bit, when we talk about the technology side, there's also kind of the concept side of the membership. And theming is something kind of fun. The Great E-Course Adventure, is anyone familiar with that at all? It's not super well known, but I think what they're doing is going to be mainstream. Just like LearnDash is mainstream now, what they are doing is going to be mainstream in like 2-3 years. And what it is they are in costume with green screens teaching their content with a theme. And so they did like a mountain climbing theme, and they're in mountain climbing gear with the trailhead background, and they literally grew their beards and hair out over the months they recorded the content, and they move up the mountain in the background. And it's entertainment, right? So everyone's always edutainment. I feel like these guys finally got it, because after they did that mountain one, they did a magician's assistant one where, hey, I'm going to show you all the magic tricks. And this is all internet marketing training. But the theme is magician's assistant or mountain climbing or whatever. And then now they've made a course on how to do this called Green Screen Magic. And so it's teaching course owners how to add a theme to their course. And like I said, this isn't something you have to add now. This is definitely a bell and whistle, unless you already have, with you might think of, okay, this might make sense. Yes?
Is this where badges would come in? Are you a proponent of badges?
Yes.
Course completion with various badges to get?
For sure. Yeah, and that I'll go into more detail here in a second, but definitely this is a little bit separate in that it's saying your actual content, the video itself, should be more like, an experience, almost, like Reading Rainbow and Magic School Bus and like kids entertainment where they work in the education with the entertainment. It's a little bit more like that. But yeah, it's, like I said, you can dress up, have fun. I plan on doing one of these at some point. I haven't figured out what the theme will be, and it will be very silly, I'm sure, but then gamification, just to your point, yeah, I love gamification. So this is Khan Academy, which is my son Braxton was on this site, and we put him on there just to learn basic math because we homeschool. Originally, we were like, okay, this is the math part they can take care of. And we put him on there, and he earned all these meteorite badges, which have nothing to do with math. So that whole top section is all these badges he earned on his own, and it's all like science and coding and stuff like that. And he did it for the badges. So what works for kids, it's the exact same for adults. And this is one of my old sites, my old Infusionsoft training. I thought I was doing a good job at the time. I was using Customer Hub right here. And these are the video names, and those are the times. This is Module 1. If you zoom out, that's what that page looks like. That's Module 1. And I thought, oh, this is good. I'm doing, look at the time is on there, and they can click on it. It's crazy. So you can gamify it, right? You can add quizzes. One of the things with quizzing is a lot of people try to say, well, I want to add a function so they'll tag the person if they watch 50% of this video, right? You guys have heard of that, like video tracking. A lot of times people carry that over to membership, which doesn't make any sense. That's better for marketing. So in marketing, you want to know how much of the video they've watched so you can figure out where to pick them up in the sales process. In membership, you want to know, did they get what I said? So quizzing them is a much better way to gauge retention. Simple quiz, single question if you want, multiple choice. But if they can't answer it, hey, maybe rewatch the video. You might have missed it, you might have been, distracted, whatever. But that's a better way to do that. Points, every time they watch something, 5 points. Every time they pass a test, 10 points, whatever. Badges, like I said, for the kid inside and the professional, and I'll get to how those are used in a second with certificates and all that. But ordering is kind of an interesting thing. So like we said, if someone comes in and says, I'm intermediate, beginner, advanced, whatever, then obviously you want to put them into the right videos. And then for some subjects, it makes a lot of sense that they learn A, B, C, D. They kind of need to go in order versus others where it's more scattered. And then throttling, this is where a lot of people ask about, well, should I drip my content? And most people will drip content for the wrong reason, which is, well, I'm charging monthly, and so I'm going to release the content monthly so they can't get in and download it all and leave, right? Which is just kind of a scarcity thing. I would say only drip the content if it actually enhances the user's experience, meaning if it's better for them to go slower, great. An example is I have a client who teaches tennis, and he did a course per type, like a serve is one course, the return, the backhand, the forehand. And if people tried to go through too many videos, because we were tagging and using timers and stuff, it'd basically just say, hey, you couldn't possibly have gone out and hit 500 serves. Like, we're going to let you back in the videos in 2 days, go out on the court kind of a thing. Lovingly, but it was a video from the guy, it popped up and interrupted him. So this is what that other crappy Infusionsoft training site looked like, or a version before this looked like, where it's like, okay, now it's broken up into these cute little courses, and there's progress bars, and if you go in here, these are the lessons with check marks, and all the courses are on the right, showing them. Our goal here was to always have a sense of perceived progress. So a couple things, not that you have to do this, but just to point it out. The progress bars up there, those are the courses. So there's 9 courses. They had to go exactly in order. They could not go down at all. They could not go one video ahead at all, right? So you can totally do that. And when I did that, a couple people complained, but I basically said, well, it's that way for a reason. If you can pass the test, you can skip it. So they'd go and try and pass the test. They couldn't pass it. They'd watch the video. They'd say, oh, I learned something new. So, and I'm showing you kind of some examples. I know you guys are interested in this stuff and pretty familiar with it, quizzing. But ultimately, what we're talking about is ROE. We're talking about giving your clients ROE, which is return on education. And it used to be if they bought a course, like an old physical course they'd get in the mail, they might never even open it, obviously, so they're missing the return. They may open it, not get through it. They may not implement it. They may incorrectly implement it. So there's so many ways for them to not get any return on this, right? They have to basically do everything right to get some benefit. Versus if you offer them a certification, and anyone can do it, which is why I picked silly ones like chimney sweep and gluten practitioner. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But these certifications are becoming really popular, and it's really unregulated in most industries at least. But this is where people can take the certificate, if they earn it, or the badge, and they can get a return by listing it on their website, positioning themselves against competitors, listing them on resumes, on their social media profiles, using them in sales presentations. I had a guy come up to me at SuccessCon earlier this year, and he opened with, I'm the only person in the world who's certified in, I think like Infusionsoft and StoryBrand and digital marketer or something. That was like his pitch, is I'm certified in these things, therefore work with me. And it's like, I don't think we know each other, you know what I mean? But it's cool, like you're very into that. But I see it kind of coming up more and more. One last thing that you can all do since you have Membarium, this is the upper level of Membarium, but you can multiply the value of your site with parent-child easily, which is where one member buys, they can have sub-members. Very valuable for business to business because obviously the owner's going to buy and they want their staff to go through the training. You can have the different sub-accounts have different access levels and all that kind of good stuff. So it's just an easy multiplier. It does make the membership seem better because you're saying, well, you're not getting one membership, you're really getting 3 for the price of 1 or 5 or whatever. Like I said, good for business to business. The sales messaging there goes, hey, this is going to help you guys scale because everyone on your team will be on the same page, doing it the same way, etc. Also good for families and teams. So a coach might buy it, put their players in. A parent might buy it, put their kids in. The reason it's valuable to do this instead of just sharing a login with somebody is where we're now tracking their progress and quizzing them and all this. You want that tracking and quizzing to be per user versus everyone going in and messing it up. So that's what's cool about it, is it tracks individually. And there's a little more to this. Is this useful? Am I going too much? I know it's all conceptual, but this, by the way, is on the next page. There's kind of a brainstorming section. And that's where it's like, okay, as I've hit you with a bunch already, but anything that stood out to you, put in there. As we finish up, anything else, put in there. And the goal is ultimately to kind of brainstorm your top 3 priorities at the bottom of this page. So I'm looking at this page with the yellow box at the top. At the bottom, brainstorming your 3 priorities, thinking of all these ideas is going to be useful. And then on the back, there's a declaration page, but I'm going to keep going. I just wanted to point out, make some notes as we're kind of getting your brains cooking.
Mike, is it that parent-child, is that a pretty easy switch once you get your membership site to say,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you think, how you have the sequence that adds someone to the membership site that you hook into a purchase goal? You just have a different goal that says child added that hooks into it and delivers to the child with an additional tag, basically. So yeah.
How do you weigh the trade-off of lost paying customers in our business, where we have a number of mother, daughter, grandmother, mother, people or sisters who become paying customers, or especially in the scrapbooking world, because our audience comes from a direct marketing company where they all have teams.
Mm-hmm.
I could see us having a situation
Yeah.
where a team member would take it, it's a direct marketing, take a membership and feed it out to customers. How would I go
So,
about
yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot there because there's different ways to control how much it gets accessed. Like within Membarium, you can say, hey, one login can only be used by so many IP addresses within a time frame, for example. And that way you can enable somebody to, hey, I can log on at work and then be on my phone later. 3 IP addresses in 24 hours is kind of typical, which prevents sharing. But in this case, if you anticipate that they're really going to share, which it means they're really going to value these additional memberships, I might sell a one-off membership, and then I might sell like a group membership of 4 or something, and then say, buy this and gift them to your friends or whatever. Yes, and I think for you, the gifting idea would be huge. I've got, they won Ultimate Marketer at SuccessCon recently, the Perrys. So they've found, and one other group in our mastermind of all these bigger membership sites has found that gifting concept, like they sell a membership and you get an extra one with it to gift to somebody, they're like, I don't know why, it just completely changes the psychology of the sell because they're kind of buying it for someone else, so it's more justifiable, It's something to think about, yeah. So building a strong community. So when you do a community, which by the way, I'm not Mr. Social Media community guy, I suck at that, so don't ask me any questions. But what I can tell you is I've done a lot of case studies with successful membership sites, and when they do talk about their community, in every case, they've kept it simple. They've trimmed down whatever the software is. So when we talk about technology and bells and whistles, they're spending all their tech time removing features so that their members are not distracted, because some community softwares are like, hey, we do forums and we do groups and we do tagging and we do private messaging and we do all this, and then people are like, well, how and where do I interact with people? Where's the best place to ask this question? And confusion is going to just delay their action, right? So keeping it simple, and you can, just like with the rest of this, you could stage it out. You could say, hey, initially our community is just this Facebook group, and maybe someday we'll add whatever. But another cool thing is you can sell several lifetime memberships early on. Let me see what time it is. I should ask you guys. What time is it?
11:06.
Okay, so we're a little bit into the workshop thing. And okay. So yeah, I'll wrap up this real quick. I think there's only one or two things. So I'm just gonna go fast, forgive me. Stick with me for a second, we'll have a break. Selling several lifetime memberships early is nice because it limits churn in your community. So if you get 100 people in, like for you, you have a big market, it wouldn't be the end of the world to say, hey, this is normally $20 a month, I'll sell 20 lifetime. You're gonna create a really dedicated person, and you're gonna seed your community with dedicated brand advocates, is the idea. And then as people come in, there's a group ready to accept and kind of onboard, and it seems like a welcoming community, especially because those brand advocates, they have every reason to want more people in there because they don't have to pay for it, and the more people in, the more they get. So another thing is to plan constant updates from the top to get the ball rolling. So you had mentioned like when your husband was doing the daily thing, right? So I was doing a case study with a client, and I was talking to the wife, and her husband was a subject matter expert, and she had built the site. And we're in there doing the case study, looking at stuff, and there's all these community notifications going off. And I was like, I thought you said you only had like 70 members. And she's like, oh, we do. And I asked, well, why is the community so active? And she said, well, my husband for the first 90 days went in every day and started the discussion, like started with a piece of content, asked a question, discussed. And so he trained them to interact in there. And then as he backed off from daily to weekly and so on, they're just in there going. And it was pretty cool to see. So, because usually, at least for me, you don't see that. So the last thing, and this is just on the marketing side, is to bring it all kind of full circle. If you've done all this, right, you've got a good site, you've got all these things happening, feeding the beast is kind of fun. So there's a little known feature in Memberium called Google First Click, which is where all of your membership pages today, if you had 100 nice membership pages with videos and whatever, well, once you put them in a membership site, they're hidden from Google, right? That's the idea. You're going to lock them away in the vault. Well, Google First Click says, well, let's still let Google crawl these pages and index them so that if someone's looking for something that's in my membership site, they get the first click for free, meaning they can click the link from a Google search, they'll hit the membership site, it'll recognize they're coming from Google for the first time, and it will treat them like a member for that one page, that one click. So they'll watch the video and think, this is amazing, and they'll go to the next video and be like, hey, sorry, you're not a member. It's pretty much what happens. And Facebook crawler is a little bit related. It's where the same thing, you can allow Facebook to crawl your pages so that when members watch a video, share it with their friend on Facebook, instead of the thing that gets shared being the locked access, you're not a member, it's the actual content because it's crawlable, and when they click it and come in, that's awesome. That's perfect.
Chrome extension I need to disable.
No, you're good. When they click it though, lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. So sometimes people don't realize they're logged in, right, when they share a link. And so if they share that on Facebook, Facebook's gonna not be able to access the page and show them the locked page. Whereas with this on, it will show them the content. Then when they click from Facebook, they'll hit the lock and it'll say, hey, you're not a member. So these are just ways to attract members. And so those are two of the settings, like the technical sides. But the real thing that you want to do, if you have 100, let's say of videos, to keep it simple, 100 10-minute videos. What I would do with those is I would turn every single one into a commercial. I'd say, look at this video, take the first minute, 90 seconds, whatever, make that free, append a 30-second clip of me interrupting and saying, hey, hope you're enjoying the video. You may not have known, but this is just for members. You can join for free here. You can become a premium, blah, 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 right? So now you have 100 commercials that are indexed by Google, and you can also then take those little video clips and put them out on YouTube, et cetera. So that's where it's like, you do kind of the hard work of building the site, and that earns you a lot of the ability to sell, right, to market. So I think that's kind of toward the end. So basically now you're a membership genius. In theory, now you just got to build it all. So as a review, right? You guys have this in your thing. We don't really need a review. I think it's time for a break. So thank you for your guys' attention. I hope that was useful.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to let Micah take a little bit of a break. We're going to let all of you guys take a little bit of a break as well. So why don't we take just like a quick 10-minute break? And then when you come back, what I want you guys to be thinking about is kind of where you're fitting into the stages, but also Micah provided us with the awesome worksheet, which I'm sure you guys have already been looking through. So, kind of work on that, and then we're gonna go around and take a quick 30 seconds for each of you guys to talk about what it is that you now realize is your focus, like the primary place that you guys need to focus based on this content. Everybody find that helpful? Good stuff. He's so amazing. I love him. All right, take a 10-minute break. Everybody be back here at, actually let's do 9 minutes and be back here at 11:20. All right, everybody back? Almost? Almost? You guys had a chance to go through where you're at? Through the work pages? Okay, promised I wasn't gonna do that. Let's start. If you guys wanna just kind of share what your top, what your top focus is gonna be, and if there was anything there that kind of helped. So I'll give you guys each like a 30-second to 60-second deal. Hey, Denny, can we kill the music up here? Okay. All right, James, would you like to start? I'll put you right on the spot.
What are we doing? I was looking for something.
We're sharing all of your social security number, complete details, like all that stuff, yeah.
I didn't actually write it down. I mean, we are brand new doing this, still developing our website. When it comes to the membership site piece, what I learned from the first segment was keep it simple, engage early with people that come on board as members. And what we want to do is maintain as much of a personal connection with our members so they don't feel lost and overwhelmed through the onboarding process.
Perfect.
So keep it simple and engage quickly with them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would almost say ditto to that.
Ditto? That's totally fine.
I'm usually having to look for this password.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Kimberly, E?
I think for me, for once getting it started, is one, keep it simple, just like James said, but also have fun. I'm a logical, stuck in the mud kind of person. Like just get it done and shut up and do it,
Yeah.
right? And so just create a way to have more fun within that as well. And then I've taken a lot of things from what other people have said that I think can be added into that process that I wasn't thinking about previously. So nothing else.
Perfect. I know that's why I like to encourage some of this stuff, because it's like half the time you get, some of the amazing ideas from other people in the room. Bill?
What are we doing?
We are sharing if there were any, what your key takeaway was from where your focus is going to be based on like what Micah just shared with you guys.
Sorry, I gotta take a pass.
No problem. Putting you right on the spot there. Aaron?
So I think some of our main goals right now are to work on the automation of things, when they, buy our membership, bring them on through an easy process through automation. And then more specifically, the customer experience, being able to, we have all this value, but being able to show them the value and show them how to use it and take them through the steps, kind of like Micah was talking about earlier. And then retaining members also. So.
Yeah. Jeff?
I'm really excited about the idea of the parent-child accounts. Boy, I can see about 4,012 ways we can use that
Only 4,012?
to exactly.
Surely out of 4,013.
To create a friendly competition within a team, but also ways for them to team members to put that on their social media, because other people in their industry would see that and become interested. That's really exciting. Plus also the Google first click. I was unaware that was possible. That's really cool.
It's very cool. Super secret ninja stuff. Yeah. Oh, Bill got one.
I'm ready.
All right.
So I love the idea that in stage 2, don't try to add horns and whistles, just sell, sell, sell. That's critical, I love it.
Yeah. And that's super key. Oh my gosh, we have so many clients that come in and they're just getting started and they're like, I want to do this, I want to build a community, I want to do this, and they're doing too many things, and invariably, just like Micah said, like they fail, you know? And so the simpler you keep it and you go through those steps, it works better every time. Absolutely every time. I'm getting blinded here. Good, Anne.
Same thing for me, actually. We have, I'm pretty confident that we'll get an audience into our membership, so I just have a little bit of technical hookup but I assume that that'll be the easy part. But just how to focus on nurturing them through it, which I can also apply back to our existing courses, more specific onboarding and engagement and all of that. My husband used to do that way back when Facebook was organic and all of that, and we've just gotten away from that as we've been busy, to just engaging with them and leading people to the next step. So how to get them in and keep them moving, keep them engaged.
Yeah.
Is key.
Good. Yep, absolutely. Vanya?
Just making it more fun for people to learn and to engage. My other takeaway was retention happens at onboarding. And so I want to really, I didn't know what I was going to focus on when I came here because I have so many things, but that helped me to zero in on that. So I really like that.
Yeah, I like that. And I really like what you talked about, Micah, with the theming and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty awesome. I'm totally jumping in with my own thing. But, so often when we're building these things, like, we're like, oh, we're sending an email, so it's going to be like super stiff and tight, right? Instead of it actually being like your voice and really having fun, because most of you are probably fun and friendly with your customers anyway, if you were actually in front of them. So, Nicholas, do you go by Nick or Nicholas? Either way, all right.
It's not. It's just basically Micah vindicated what I came here for. It's just launched a beta. Just it's that simple. I don't want gamification yet. I don't want anything. I just want to have 20 people to be able to use the product, break it, me fix it, and then when we finally launch, it's good.
Get them in and keep them in. All right, awesome, great. Okay, feels like you guys all feel like you're on a pretty solid path. Kind of know what you need to focus on, where you need to go. So in terms of talking about where we need to go next, Micah is going to walk us through kind of ideal client paths and pricing and sort of how you look at structuring all of that stuff. So your turn.
Thanks, Jen. All right, cool. Yeah, it was interesting to listen to where you guys are at. So I'm glad sounds like some clarity and you guys are committing to it, which I really appreciate. So for the client path and pricing models section of this, I'll just share this. I'll be transparent that my friend Dobbin at Get You Wired, he told me, because I always obsess and like really get anxious about presenting, he told me, okay, for one of your next presentations, I don't want you to prepare at all, like don't even think about it. And this is that one. So just so you know. Yeah. So, but it's going to be great. I've presented this before in various ways, but basically this is kind of a continuation or an evolution of what we were talking about, which is, we're talking about from the owner's perspective, the 4 stages, how do we make it good for you? Now let's talk about your client. So when I say client path, what I mean is how are they going to navigate your world, right? So somebody comes in contact with you, how do they enter your world? How do they become a member? What's that like? How do they become, a member who's paid you thousands of dollars over a period of time or more, whatever? So what does that client path look like? And the reason this is valuable is because if you look at what you have to teach and you said, okay, members get everything. Some people have made this mistake, right? Hey, you become a member, you get everything I'm ever going to do. You're in my club, right? The insiders club, that kind of thing. And that's a problem because there's no client path there. They get everything no matter what you do in the future. they get it, right? So I'm sure you guys haven't made that mistake. That's obviously at the far end of the spectrum, but what I'm saying is that let's talk about right now, if you had 100 videos, how many of those are in the initial Tripwire type product? How many of them are in the one-time fee product? How many of them are in the subscription model? How many of them are in the high-end product, right? So if you look, and later today, at the end of the day, we're going to go through and build out your curriculum on note cards. And if you guys haven't done that before, it's really, really, really powerful exercise. Has anyone ever done that before? Okay, a couple of you guys have. Cool. But with the client path and pricing models, depending on how much content you have, let's talk first of all about your ideal client path. Like, what is the best client for you? And so, for example, Jeff, you've been doing this for a while, and can you think of, when somebody comes in, what do you ideally want them to do? Like, what's a perfect client path from your perspective?
On the landlording side, we want them to have a big win that they can identify really fast so that they can say to their friend, oh, this is so cool, I've got this and I've mastered it. And then take them on a journey.
And what financially, what does that look like? Meaning, do they pay up front? Do they pay monthly?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking.
No, that's a perfect answer. I'm just asking a follow-up. How do they pay?
They pay monthly.
So when they pay monthly, you want their first month to get them this big.
We want the first day
Okay.
to have a deliverable that they can say, all right, I can take this and I can do something with it, even if they haven't yet done it.
Okay.
We want them really quickly to have that.
And
And then we want, with our people, they tend to drop off at about 5 months. So knowing that, at about 4 months, we will send them a physical product that gives them a new thing to do in order, and we give them actually half of the physical product, and then the other half is down the road. And that's increased retention, not as much as we thought it would, but it's helped.
gotcha. And that might be, like I was saying, I've tried to do that too. Like, hey, we find they're canceling here, let's do this to preempt that cancel. That's what I found and was very surprised by, and was told by several consultants and didn't believe them for years until I experienced it over and over, was that doesn't save people, it's the onboard, right? So your client path, it sounds like though, is you want them to buy monthly. First of all, how do they get on your list? Do they just buy initially?
Well, most of them came not from the social media world, but from the physical world of seminars that we had done.
Okay,
So they already had a sense that they were going to get some valuable stuff.
okay. So you got your leads, you met them physically, and then how did you offer them the membership?
Sent them an email.
Okay,
And then they went to a webinar, and then they purchased.
okay,
And actually, one of the biggest mistakes we made, and it goes to what you're saying, we were overwhelming them at first. We gave them 17 million things they could learn,
mm-hmm.
and they dropped off really fast.
Yeah.
When we gave them 1, 2, 3 things they could learn, then they hung around, and then we could kind of open it up more for them.
Perfect. And just as an example for you guys, not that there's anything wrong with what you're doing, this is a case where you could sell a one-time product that includes those 3 things, like for, hey, $97, you get this small training, and you could just run that thing hard, right? Like that would be a good liquidation offer to run ads on, for example, or to have affiliates promote. And then all those people, then it's how do you get them ongoing, you know? Gotcha. And what you're doing sounds like it's working, but this is, when we talk about client path, this is what I'm saying is, so he's got content, right? He's got live events he's done, he's got online content and different things. And what we're talking about right now is exactly how do you break it up, because it's not quantity, it's experience. It's not how much content you have, it's how do we feed it to them in a way that they're gonna get the best experience, and then where along that journey are they paying, you know? Because I look at the full spectrum, right from whatever the first thing that they, you know, the lead magnet or free whatever that they do, that's the beginning, right? So let me ask you this. Go ahead.
Well, in a new vertical we're going into, we have no audience.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole bunch of content that we've created. And we were thinking that we would say to the new people, look, you're kind of a beta tester, we'll call it a pilot program. And if you join now, then we'll give you all of the crap that's coming along.
Mm.
Probably isn't the way we describe it.
Sure.
That's coming along down the road. And what you're maybe suggesting is that's not a great idea.
Yeah, potentially not, because, well, the there's some pros and cons, right? Like you might be able to sell more people now, but you're basically creating membership debt, right? Not technical debt, but it's like, oh, now I got to serve these people stuff with no additional income. So anyways, for everyone else, I want you to kind of think about, and whatever your model is, like think about the simple model digital marketer teaches. Is everyone familiar with digital marketer? No. No? Who's not? Okay, and that's totally great. I just want to make sure as I'm using jargon that they use that. So they have it went very mainstream, but it's the same thing everyone's always done. We used to call it squeeze page, sales page, thank you page. They're basically saying like, oh, lead magnet, right? Give them something that they're going to want. It acts like a magnet to get the lead. And then tripwire is sell them something cheap and simple and easy. So the tripwire concept is once they take the lead magnet, offer them something, and if they buy that little thing for $7, whatever, then immediately upsell them into like a $97 membership or whatever. And that's their funnel. There's so many versions of this, right? But it's all the same thing. What I'm curious about with Jeff, just to continue on a little bit, is those people who stay longer, what's their path? They just stay forever? Do they ever graduate to another level?
No, we don't have,
okay.
They just continue to pay on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And we keep giving them new content. And we also have a twice a month a Q&A where they can ask the questions that
Great.
for the issues they're having right now. I think that's what's holding them in more than anything else.
Gotcha. And do you feel like you can keep creating content every month forever?
We're already recycling stuff.
Okay.
With knowing that they hang around for about 5 months, we have about 12 months worth of stuff. And then we recycle that and update it and refresh it, but it's all pretty much the same stuff. It's the monthly Q&A that really seems to hold people, those that stay.
And do you know, is that a significant number of people who are sticking on or a small?
It's about 30% that seems
Okay.
like they're going to retire with us.
Okay. So he just said something interesting about 30% seem like they're going to retire with him. So this is where this client path and pricing model becomes interesting, because if he's saying the average member stays 5 months, and then there's some of them who stay forever, you could slice and dice this a few different ways. And it's again, just kind of more for the sake of explanation, but you could take that and say, well, instead of selling an ongoing membership that I know they're going to keep for 5 months, why don't I sell a 6-month membership? Because it's actually easier to sell what's called micro continuity, which is, hey, it's not an ongoing membership forever. You don't have to cancel it. It's a 6-month membership. After the 6 months, it's done. And you can then, instead of recycling your content constantly, you can focus on the strongest 6 months you can possibly build, right? And then sell more of that. Like you would make a higher volume of sales. It'd be easier to create. And then you could figure out something special for those people who are your fans anyways. Right? And it doesn't have to be, hey, we're going to hit everyone with the same thing, even though only a portion are really in for the long haul. So, yes.
That's where we got in trouble though, because we sold this 1 year of tip of the day,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of it.
What do you do? Yeah.
So and we had a problem logistically too, because we didn't at the time, now I would know how to deliver it, in sequence. This was before Infusionsoft, we sold it, so they were coming in, so we had people, and it was crazy, people were coming into the cycle, it wasn't necessarily sequential, and we just tried to deliver that, and at the end of the year, if we had an audience who wanted more, and then we give them. So, we thought that would be a way to just get in and give them what we had, but it's caused us, and then we pulled it, yanked it, and we've just been floundering for a couple of years, so.
So, and you bring up a really valuable point. Everything we're going to talk about has trade-offs. So you're going to sell better and be more efficient and focused doing a micro continuity, which is the continuity has a limit on its time, right? But then at the end of that period, now you got to resell those people. And what you might consider doing is keeping your current program, slicing off whatever the first few months are, selling that separately, and then having this maintenance program be included with it. Like, hey, when you buy X, you get 6 months of our whatever program free. Go ahead.
Well, what that would perhaps also do is at the end of 6 months, someone is done. Rather than the way it is now, they hang around until they just cancel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned that at the end they say, okay, I got all I want, and that they're thinking, that's now my history.
Right.
Rather than, ooh, I'm excited, I can maybe get more.
Yeah. And if you look, so Digital Marketer is a great example for those of you who know him. For those of you guys who don't, I'll kind of explain it a little bit. So they had a library of content. They had the Maze thing going a couple years ago. And when I first heard about LearnDash, it was from my friend Mike Weiss. He was the one who built the first digital marketer certification course as a pilot. So they basically were doing the, hey, you're a member, you pay us, here's this wall of stuff. And he was telling them, no, you can make this seem more valuable and position it better by, instead of just internet marketing, email marketing specialist certification course. Seems legit, right? But they are all micro-continuity. So they've got all these certifications that they sell in a micro-continuity, but the paradigm shift, and Mike is very much into this, and so I've been following it for a number of years, is that you, basically, if you deliver the 6 months properly, their perception of the company of 6 months and my billing stops and it was a good experience, way different than having to cancel, because then when you sell them the next 6 months, you got a good audience. And that's what Digital Marketer did, is they found if we can sell the certification and deliver it really well, and what they focused on was completion rates. So their whole focus with these courses was completion rates. And they improved them. I won't quote the numbers because I'll hit them all wrong, but all of Mike's work improved them so much that they changed their model to everything's a certification course. Buy all of them, buy one, buy sets, whatever. As soon as you buy one, we're cross-selling, upselling you. So, and then obviously at the back of all this, they have Digital Marketer Lab, which is where the community is, which is where there's the long-term stick. And that's where I'm saying, it sounds like if people are staying for the office hours or the Q&A, then you might have a Q&A program separate and then some courses, and that'll give you some more flexibility versus everyone gets everything ongoing.
The reason we haven't done the Q&A separate is that there wouldn't be any value in the Q&A unless someone already has
Sure.
been through the Q&A.
Yeah, and you don't have to, you wouldn't offer it widely. I just mean they would pay separately or bundle them together, but you position them separately. So, so thanks for letting me dive in kind of deep there for a minute, Jeff. But I like it because he's kind of got experience and all that, but still, if you kind of look at it, and it's great to have and know your numbers, retention. Do you have any idea what the average customer lifetime value is?
I would have to whip out a calculator really quickly, but the answer is no, I don't.
Okay. And what I would be curious about is if you say their average canceling month 4 or 5, and then there's 30% sticking long term, what's the overall average of months? You know what I mean? Because that question, how many members do you have?
1,200.
So this is an idea with retention. If you think about it, he's got 1,200 members. If he figured out the average number of overall months was 7, right? And he can improve that by 1 month, then basically he makes 1 month's fees times 1,200 from now on. So retention is huge once you get your numbers up, like big opportunity. Let's go over here a little bit. So James, you guys are, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. You're just starting a new project for new membership.
Correct.
And the other stuff you did, the other coursework and training, was it in courses memberships? How was it delivered?
I don't think we did any previously.
Okay, so this is new.
Right.
Okay. How much content do you think you have? How many hours, let's say?
Not that much yet.
How much do you want? Like ballpark, 3, 10, 50?
For what?
How many hours of content do you think will go?
Well, we have that one mini course,
Right.
which is a few hours. So yeah, I mean probably 50 to 100 hours of content.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, we're really into doing video content and everything,
Mhm.
video courses.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're just at the beginning phase of that. We've done one mini course
Okay.
so far.
So for you guys, do you think you're going to have each course be sold separately? Or are you going for like a grand membership? What are your thoughts on that so far?
Go ahead.
I'm creating different courses. I want to have where there's in smaller packages, and then the big certification course, which is a combination of all of my work
Mm-hmm.
in certain areas. So with the Healing Road, it's everything from numerology, astrology, feng shui, energy clearing, healing, all of that. And so that's like the master practitioner certification.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be very well-rounded in everything having to do with energy. But I'm going to, as I develop them, I just signed on my first client, a 1-year client.
Mhm.
I gave her a free session, a quantum healing session, and she's like, oh my gosh, I want to work with you for a year. So I'm taking her through several times we meet on Zoom per month.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm teaching her material, and now I'm building my course as I go with her.
Okay,
So I'm
great.
teaching her, and then I'm going to be putting it into smaller videos and packaging that. And at the end of the year with her, she'll have helped me unknowingly create this master pack, and then she'll also be certified in my certification at the end of the year.
That is
And
genius.
then my membership's going to have like a master class. Every month it's going to have a different theme,
Mm-hmm.
a different topic in the energy world that I'm going to be teaching about, and creating that as I go. So I'm always going to be at least 1 month ahead.
Gotcha.
So by the end of the 12 months, I'm going to have a really good plan.
And- And so when you have that 12-month plan, just to take that further, how are you going to sell that?
That's what I'm working on right now, learning more and more about that.
Okay.
I have a lot of referrals. We belong to several masterminds where we're going on different databases of being interviewed by people, going on their Facebook Lives.
So let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
You're teaching a number of subjects. Do they have to go in order through those typically, or is it they go in and they can learn whichever in this 12-month
That's
certification
really-
thing?
That's kind of the details that I was thinking of that. Do I
Mm.
want it to be, I mean, some of it might be linear, like, a foundational information before we build on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, one section will be on chakras, one will be on aura, so we'll have, and then inside that section will be numerous videos, how many
Mhm.
are required to deliver the content.
Okay.
And
So what you might do there with those different subjects, and this is a little bit more brainstorming still, and keep in mind we're trying to decide, keeping in mind how to make you profitable and successful, but what really is the client path, best client path. And I wonder if in that case, if it might be useful, it sounds maybe counterintuitive to say, hey, it's like they can check out an area, but once they go into it, they can't come out until they pass it. You know what I mean? Because otherwise they might sample and never do anything. You might say, go ahead and pick one, but you're not getting anything else until you finish, and it will kind of force them through some stuff. You could sell all of those. If you did 12 and they were really 12 separate, I might start a la carte with those versus trying to find someone who's really interested in all of those things. Like the overlap of that is going to be harder. So just something to think about a little bit, to brainstorm a little bit.
Micah?
Yes.
I'm sorry, could I
Yeah.
follow up just briefly on
Mhm.
that?
And let me make sure, are you guys separate businesses?
Yeah, it's two separate.
Okay, because I was like, wait,
businesses.
okay, that's
Yeah.
my confusion. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead, James.
Business partners,
Gotcha.
but separate businesses. So my focus is on people in the recovery world and the personal development world that value community but don't fit in or don't see themselves in the current model of community that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't put any names on any of that. So what I want to do is create in my membership a community that would, again, have a monthly wellness, empowered wellness theme where I will be creating like a master class, a video class. It might only be 3, 4, 5 videos related to that theme, and then have 4 weekly in the month. So a weekly live call, 60-minute, 90-minute live interaction with the community.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Do you like doing all this stuff?
Yeah, I love it.
So you could do this all day, every day? Because it sounds like that's what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, okay.
So just double checking, because that sounds like a lot to commit
That's
to.
in addition to my main career in agriculture, where I spend about 60 hours a
Jeez.
week. So yeah, it's all good.
Making me feel bad.
So
Go ahead.
4 live community calls. I don't know if it's going to be a Zoom call or some maybe a webinar call, but they're all kind of themed differently. And this is just going to be, one will be where I'm coaching, Dr. James Empowered Wellness Coaching call. One will be a quantum healing session with Dr. Julie. One will be a special guest expert on that monthly theme. It might be nutrition, and
So-
one will be a monthly Q&A. And so that's kind of the coursework will be developed as we go, and it's not so much content heavy to start with as relationship heavy.
That makes sense. And for the first year, that might make a ton of sense to do it live, to pilot out, just like you're piloting that process with one person, which I did like that idea because I've never thought of that as a way to create content, like an individual high-end coaching. My thinking is that if you're going to do something like that, just be careful to what you're committing to, as in, don't make people think that they're going to get that forever. Be like, hey, it's the very first year, so because of that, you're going to get a lot more me than you might get down the road. That becomes a sales advantage, and it also makes it so you have a way to, convert gracefully, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And I think we've only got a couple more minutes. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Nick, I just wanted to kind of get more detail on what you're doing.
This is like what I'm going to do of these 3 days is to step away from what we actually do as our core business. And so, in terms of a membership site, what I'm interested in going away from is how to, Frank Kern's Gold.
No.
Basically, you pay a certain amount of money, you can go in and then select from a buffet of stuff.
Okay.
Ours is like this initial idea is a very watered down version of that, where they can go and buy a bundle of resources that they can use over that month. So a client could come in and buy that. So they pay a monthly membership to come in and choose from a number of resources that they can have, small resources. And then what they do is they commit to a 12-month membership. So they get 12 of these resources over a year. And that's that's going to be a kind of it's a product in itself, but it will lead them into then purchasing our hiring products.
Gotcha. And so when you say, like, these 3 days you're trying to do something new, are you working on the older stuff at all, or is it all piloting this new thing?
It's piloting this new thing because the Membarium, Infusionsoft, Samcart, all this, that integration,
Mm-hmm.
I need that integration before I take it into the higher
Gotcha.
end.
And do you have the basics of that set up? Like, can you log into a site and buy something and get a member to log in?
We have some of the pages built out,
Uh-huh.
and some of the technology built out, but it's just not.
Okay.
Here's the kind of rubber hits the road, walk away from this, we can work.
Sure. Okay, cool. Good to know. Thank you. All right, let's do one more. Go ahead, Ann. Yeah, just kind of, how much content do you have overall? How do you see people navigating their way through it?
We have a ton of content. We offer lead magnets, free ebooks, free classes, we call them webinars, free photo classes. What else do we have? Contests, quizzes, photo contest quizzes, things like that, to get people in, to sign in onto our list. Where I'm stuck, and then right now we have 5 classes ranging from a $29 smartphone class to a $400 interactive manual photography class. We have 2 8-week interactive courses, 1 4-week interactive course basic, and there are self-study versions of all of those, plus a self-study smartphone course, GBN, $29. We're going to upgrade that and increase that.
Sorry to interrupt, how good are you guys right now, do you feel, at cross-selling all this stuff?
We're terrible.
Okay.
I mean, we do it, we attempt to do it, but more manually. Our Infusionsoft campaigns are not set up yet at all to cross-sell any of this stuff. So, but our customer has found us. Our avid customers have taken all the courses. They
Gotcha.
put us through on their, we
Yeah.
sell, we market just in general, but they stick with us. But in terms of automating the process is where we haven't done that yet. And then we have a photo editing course. So we've got the 5 courses, and where I'm stuck on our path is whether I would see people, the goal to get the free sign-up customer to go to a cheap $7 to $10 a month basic subscription first, or a course. But I'm assuming a subscription, maybe just to give us like stable monthly bread and butter.
And you don't have subscriptions yet, right?
We don't have it yet, but we have it partially, if not entirely built already, but it's never been hooked up because we didn't come up with all of the offerings. What's the percent off discount? How do we deliver that? With a page of free ebooks, all the extras that come in.
Sure.
So we know what the content the content for the membership will be the premium content that was in the year subscription.
Is all your stuff in one site now, or is it in different?
It's all on one site now.
Okay, good.
It's taken several years. Everything we built ad hoc, freelance, you get what you pay for, somebody throwing up one course on one site, one on another. So all at once, 3 years ago, I got Infusionsoft and had and tried to bring together all the courses under one site. So it's all there now. We can deliver access to different sites with different courses with one dashboard, and two levels of a membership because we have our diehard audience right now is begging for more, so they need the advanced membership. But obviously, we have ignored our basic business in these past 3 years, where we've cultivated, our key group of advocates and who take everything and want more. So, just to get back, what we need to do is, twofold. The biggest problem in our business is we need to market and bring new people in, because our audience is basically, they're saturated with what we have. So
Yeah.
we want to get the basic membership. So I'm back to the beginning. I think that I would probably want them to come in at the basic subscription membership level, and then, and then market one-off courses to them appropriately, and then upsell them obviously through the courses, and at some point, as they graduate from the courses, they would be upsold to the more advanced membership. And then we have those members, right now we have live workshops, a $1,700 4-day around the country workshop, and our audience is taking those, and then we want to build a mastermind level for people who want to start their own photography business. Those would be the 2 high price points.
Gotcha.
But my confusion is around, do we want to, when they come in, do we want to try to sell them one of the courses? Do we want to sell them the subscription? I also want the advanced membership. And then I go to, do we want the courses to be available as part of an advanced level membership?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm confused. What's the better model with the courses? To keep them as one-offs, or to build them into a membership, or to offer both somehow, and how does that work? So that's the confusion level I have, the 2-level subscriptions and the courses.
How does it feel carrying around all that detail all the time?
Exhausting. I just can't make it all happen.
Yeah.
Just me alone. My little laptop. But hopefully
So,
this will help these 3 days.
Yeah, and so let me kind of back to what I said in the beginning about Dobbin telling me to not prepare. He wasn't saying be irresponsible and don't prepare. He was saying, like, don't focus so much on your presentation, try to actually interact and whatnot. So from this, what I hope you heard from each other is there's so many different ways to think about and slice and dice this. And part of the reason I haven't said, all right, open your laptops first thing and start typing in stuff and click here, click there, is that so much of what we're doing here, it's all a head game, it's all mental, it's all intention, you know what I mean? Because you could build the same content one way without knowing a couple little slight tricks and totally, totally different results, right? Financially, reputation-wise, experience, all those things. And on the last day, I'll go over tons of my mistakes and other people's mistakes. It'll be fun and embarrassing because some of them are recent. But yeah, I hope this was useful, at least to kind of stir up. There are options, depending on how much content you have, you can do it this way, that way, whatever. And what I find is interesting is the way people talk about it. And nothing in particular here with anybody, but when people say, well, we're doing this for this reason, and you can tell by their language that they're locked into that thinking. They feel like they have to do it because maybe they committed to it at some point or whatever. And so I'd just invite everybody, since you guys are less beginner, more experienced, some of you, to really do what's called zero-based thinking during lunch, which is, if I started all over, would I do it this way, or how would I do it, right? And you may not be able to completely adjust everything. There might be some inertia, but anything you can adjust or plan to adjust in the future or whatever is going to be really valuable. And that's why this morning's been more mental. It's to say, when you do start pushing the buttons, you want to know what you're doing, because it's enough work as is. You don't want to do it and have to redo it and tweak it and all that. And I know Jen, we talked about this beforehand. She is going to teach you some stuff later this afternoon about how to make it easier to make changes. For example, with her tag maps and stuff, which is exciting. So you want to still have some flexibility, but you do want to have a pretty good idea of what you're trying to get done before you start clicking away. So hopefully that makes sense, and I hope that was helpful. Yeah, Kimberly.
I was just going to say that what you just said, that's really helpful, because since I'm starting out fresh,
Mm-hmm.
it's all brand new, I had in my mind one way, but since all the talking and the communication, like, I've already redesigned it from that.
Cool. Good.
And more simpler.
Good.
A lot simpler for me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, because you can hear, it's also partially just getting other options, because you can kind of see like, oh, I would like to do that, or I would not like to do that. I would not like to do that sort of thing, but I love that you like to do it.
Yours like mine, because I just changed.
Yeah. but
I
I
want to do a year-long membership.
Yeah.
I want 6 months.
No.
To me, that's all I want to spend time with
Mm-hmm.
those people.
Right.
Like, move on to the next level.
Yeah.
And if, that way, those people that are not really can move them out
Mhm.
and get people that are really serious.
Yeah.
That's what I really want to work with, is the serious people, and sometimes 12 months is just way too long.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm not making any specific recommendations, you should and whatever. It's that, like, this is really a preference, you know, and like I said, they're all trade-offs. And so you're going to do better, your content's going to be better, your members are going to be happier if you can fit some of this together and realize, okay, what's better for them? Because I may do this for total business reasons. It's going to ruin their experience, which is going to ruin my business results, right? You got to get kind of a harmony. So anyways, I'll just end there. I know we're going on time. So Jen, coming on. Thanks, guys.
Awesome, thank you. Wasn't that great?
Yes.
So I'm just gonna, just to kind of cap off of that, again, it goes back to that, keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. If you have, and you're like, I wanna do all these things, I wanna sell all these things, and like, even as you were talking, it's like, okay, I know we can simplify it. And I know we have a few ClickFunnels people in here. I know that's like totally, we shouldn't be talking about ClickFunnels and Infusionsoft, but anybody in here familiar with ClickFunnels messaging at all? Yeah. Good. So it's interesting, even though there's all these, you know, factions that are sort of at war with each other, they all have the same message, you know, just like Micah was saying. It's like, keep it simple. Digital marketer, they talk about have a way to attract people, sell them something small, and then start scaling that up and selling something else, you know. And Micah talked about, like, don't expand past, you're not going to expand past your point in your membership site until you know that you can very easily sell like 100 of those very easily, right? In ClickFunnels, they talk about build a sales funnel and focus on that one funnel and don't do anything else until you make like $1 million from that one funnel, you know, or whatever that number is. But it's that one thing, because I've seen it over and over and over and again. I know you guys have seen it too. When you get into entrepreneurese and you're like, ooh, something shiny, and oh, I want to go do this, I want to go do this. Like, it's so easy to get distracted. And the more you're spreading your energy all over the place, the less you're focusing on the one thing, and you're just not going to be successful. So hopefully we can all take that away as being simple. I do it all the time too. In fact, I was going to wait until after lunch, but just so you guys know, inside your bags, there's a charger, a cell phone charger. So here's an example of that. I was like, oh, I want to add an extra revenue stream to my business. Why don't I start an e-commerce business and build this thing on Amazon? I can run that. Turns out it's like building a whole other business. You have to do, I was like, oh, I can build all the automation, no problem. But you have to build a whole other business, right? So I set it up and it sells-ish, you know, but like I don't do anything with it. So those are actually, that is a Formula Done brand, like co-brand. Those are, we produced them. Turns out they're really, really awesome and a lot of fun, but it's something that like we did and my energy wasn't focused where it needed to be, so it failed. So that's just a story to share. All right, we are going to go ahead and break for lunch. While you're at lunch, I want everybody to be thinking about what your client path is going to look like, what your pricing is going to look like, what that structure looks like for getting everybody onto your membership. That's what we're going to be talking about when we come back from lunch. For VIP and Platinums, we're going to go out here right next door. We have lunch over there. I will continue one-on-one conversations there. For everyone else, we are going to meet back here. We're going to start back at 1:30. Did I miss anything else? Oh.
We've got some dietary restrictions in here, so everything on the buffet is gluten-free except for the churros and the flour tortillas. There's corn instead, and there is also a restaurant here on property. So
Yep.
for anybody that will not be joining us that would like to have
Yep.
lunch on property,
Great.
there's a lot of restaurants, great restaurants in the area too, but you know, if you want to stay close.
Awesome. James, you had a question?
How secure will this room be if we leave our stuff?
Great question. We can,
I'll stay here.
okay.
Yeah, you can leave your stuff in the room.
Okay, we'll make sure it's watched over. Awesome. All right, everybody break. Back here, we'll start by 1:30. That she doesn't like talking. Oh, I need an agenda just to make sure I'm on track. All right, so while I grab that, good lunch, everyone. All right, everybody change their plan at least 3 times during lunch? No? We have a plan set?
I didn't say that. As of right now, I haven't changed it, that's all.
Anybody have any ideas or clarification on their plan that you guys want to share with the rest of the group? All silence. Okay, who'll go first? And talking about like where you landed with ideas on your plan for your client path.
Can you explain client path again, exactly what you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. So just when we were talking about how they're going to come in. So even just like what we were talking about with your putting them through the free class. So how are people going to come in to your membership site? How are you going, what is the sales path going to look like? How are you going to make sure that they're staying on board and also upselling? And don't worry, we are going to go into each of these topics in detail as we go through the rest of the days, but we kind of wanted to get you guys thinking about what your sales path, what your customer path and everything is going to look like when people are starting to be introduced to your offerings, and then how you're going to take them through the process. Does that make sense?
An example of a customer path of somebody.
So I'll just go back for clarification to the one that that Micah talked about, which was like free lead magnet. They're on your list. Then you offer them a a tripwire, which is a low entry point of some sort of product, getting them to say yes, training them to say yes, getting them involved, and then from that point you're able to then upsell them to like a subscription retention type product. Anybody here following that model or considering following that model? Great, good, awesome. And I know you guys are talking about something very similar, where we talked about like the free class, and then they would come in. So that's still a free thing to eventually they'll get to a paid thing, to then eventually like a recurring revenue, which is what we're after. Is everybody in here, just out of curiosity, when we're talking about pricing, everybody here leaning towards wanting to get to a monthly recurring subscription model? Is there anyone that's not? Okay. That's right, yours is a one-time, and then they get it for life, basically. Yeah.
The benefit that I got out of this morning is I am kind of starting from scratch, kind of rethinking, but I do want to use it for a top of the funnel something. I'm not really looking to make money off of that.
Good, okay. All right. Isn't it great where we just rewind everything that you've done? Yeah. Yours is a one-time? Awesome. Is it one time for life, one time for?
There's a part of it that like the membership site is one time for life.
Mm-hmm.
The one-on-one part of it, there's a one-on-one component.
Okay.
It's part of the program.
Great.
It has a price range.
Great.
And then a life.
Very good. Yes, Anne, sorry.
I have a question. I don't know, I never know when it's appropriate to ask questions, so if this is something you'll get to later, but a big question that we've had with our courses, which are a one-time payment, is this whole issue of life, and what does that mean, and how does that work? So what we started doing originally was offering our courses, self-study courses, say, and give them 1-year access. People wanted longer, we moved it to 3-year access, and I said, why aren't we just giving it for life? So at some point, it doesn't have to be now, I would love to have a little discussion around what is lifetime, what is it you're promising, because how long will you be in business, what is the expectation, and how should you price it for what number of years, that whole issue
Right.
of lifetime.
So the question is yeah, what does a lifetime membership type thing look like? And I'm going to go back and reference kind of what Micah said in terms of it depends, based on your content, based on your customers, because, and just like Micah was saying, there's a trade-off. So a lot of times, and I don't want to speak also when you shoulds, but here's things that we have seen in setting these up as well. If you're in the beginning and you're trying to get to that first 100 hardcore people that are your true fans that are out there being advocates and everything like that, lifetime for life early adopter, like they're taking an early risk on you without all of the social proof, that seems to be a good way to help you get to that first 100. If you're past that, you know, like Micah was talking about, like the trade-offs, if you're already past that point, giving them lifetime for life, you're trading, like you're creating a future membership deficit because those same people aren't going to buy in the future because they get everything, right? So we, a lot of times will find early adopters, give them the lifetime and take care of them like they're your grandfather people, you know, whatever. Your inner circle, ambassadors, yes. And give them that access, but as you're growing, maybe there's a couple ways that it could look like. It could be lifetime access to exactly what they bought. And if you're adding on content to that every week, every month, something like that, maybe they don't get all of the continued added on stuff. If you're opening up for office hours and it's just doesn't take you any more or less, you could give them unlimited access to office hours, something as it goes. But just keep in mind, like, what is that deficit going to be?
So I'm talking specifically about a course, not the membership,
Mm-hmm.
the bigger ongoing benefits and things added, but a self-study course.
To the course?
That we used to, and there's no interactions, no engagement, no office hours, nothing. It's just a self-study course.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to say, you get access for 1 year and then close it down.
Okay.
And then we made it 3, and now I'm thinking, why on earth? I mean, almost never would someone pay to keep access, or we wouldn't even want to necessarily charge them.
Yeah.
So, but I guess there's that question. And we did have some people who would pay to renew access, but for the most part, I feel like if we just tell them
Is the content changing at all? Okay, and once they go through that and learn the material, would they repeat it?
it's just for them to refresh. Our audience loves to.
I would give them lifetime access.
Well, my question then is, what are you promising them, and what if we go out of business, or my husband, goes blind and deaf?
It's lifetime of the program.
Yeah.
Not your lifetime.
So
Yep.
how do you define that? I guess that's my question.
Yep.
How do you define that?
I would say lifetime of the program, because if 3 years down the road you're like, we're going to get rid of this program, they don't get it. I mean, it's going to go away and you're not going to keep it just for them.
Is that just implicit to users all over the internet, or
Just put it in your fine details.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
that capacity, if I have closed down a number of courses where I had promised lifetime access. So what I did was I wrapped all of the files up in a zip, and I made it available for a limited amount of time in Dropbox.
Mm.
And then I
That's a-
systematically told them a number
That's a
of
good plan.
times
Mm-hmm.
and said, a week,
Give them, yeah.
2 days left, and then it went to
That's a great idea.
That's a good idea.
One of my other questions is, sometimes you see it's like you can download. Should we be making our courses available for download, or just keep them, I don't know what makes them available for download? Or just keep them?
I would lean away from the download unless there's specific worksheets or things that you need for them to have.
So we don't, but that would be a way.
Or that you're curtailing the program.
That's my fear, is that,
Mhm.
hey, we're done with this, we're gonna lock up shop, but as long as you then just
We make PDFs available for download, but if they want to watch the video,
say it's online. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I love those answers, thank you.
Good. And James.
Another thing along the line of what you're sharing, and you see this on Udemy a lot, you can give someone or sell someone rather a lifetime access to your course, knowing that they're probably ready to go through it and they may get through it again and not go back. However, if you do go in and take the time to make some updates in some way or another and contact them via email that there's updates to the course, blah, 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 you drive interest back to that course, but also to your other offerings.
Yeah,
So it's a way to keep generating, you're kind of making it evergreen and
Right.
alive for them with current stuff added. And
Right.
Udemy teachers are really good at this, where you keep adding things. You may have even added some things to some of the courses you've done or.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah,
That's,
it's,
of our 5 courses, one of them we will do that. We promised that, we haven't done it yet, which is a smartphone photography. You have to constantly
Yeah.
update. So,
And not
Yeah.
having it downloaded downloadable, I know like with some of our trademark classes that we have our brands trademarked in, it's not for downloadable content, it's for non-downloadable content, but you also, if they find it through your portal or your website, again, that drives people back to your website where you give them back, so.
Absolutely, and it is so great to train them to keep coming back to your site over and over, because you give them reasons to keep coming back, because then that's another place to position your future upsells and your future offers. And it keeps them engaged, right? You want me to just jump up and get over the monitors there?
You know Greg Jenkins from Monkeypox?
Yeah, I know Greg, yeah.
So on Greg's site, if you go and buy one of his courses, he says something like, you've got 2 months, and then it's gone. And then he says, and the reason why I do that is, I actually want you to do it. I want you to purchase it and leave it and never do it. The only benefit you're going to get is if you actually do it. So we put a time constraint on you, which was really unusual.
And that's actually a really interesting tactic. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, because if you're forcing them to actually go through the content that you actually care about, wanting to make sure that they're learning what you're giving them, that's a great thing, because time scarcity is awesome. And what you can also do is tee off of that, and I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole, so I'm going to come back, but you can tee off of that and do, if you complete the first content here within 2 months or a month or whatever your time frame is, that you'll also get access to a free bonus course or a one-on-one consult like what you're doing, or like whatever, but they don't get that until they've done the material, and then you can build into your reminders like, hey, looks like your time's almost up and you haven't completed this. And then once they have, hey, I know you've completed it, I'm going to leave it open to you for lifetime, so that you can come back and reference it whenever you need. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can certainly help position it. You just have to think about what is my overall path, like where am I starting, what's my entry point of starting people into. Have you guys heard of like the value ladder in terms of figuring out what your offerings are and stuff? So what is your free point, and then what's your first lowest point and everything, and then up to what's your top offer? Because ideally you want to get people coming in wherever they're coming in. They may come in mid-level or low level, but you want them to be able to ascend all the way up to your top offer for the correct people. So you kind of want to have an idea what that path looks like, so you know where you're ultimately driving them. Does that make sense? I'm going to get into a session, so I probably need to rewind just a little bit and give you guys a little bit of an explanation about Formula Done and why there's cars in your bag and all these things. So from me personally, I grew up playing with cars, working on cars. My husband and I are like muscle car freaks, and we actually met drag racing. So I'm very into all of the racy things. My very favorite sport, and the only sport that we actually watch on our TV, is Formula One racing. And so Formula One, Formula Done, all of that just kind of fell in. And so a lot of what I do, just to keep it fun and light and all of those things, is I incorporate racing and car idioms into everything that we do marketing-wise. And so that's why you guys got race cars in your bags.
Did you go to Indy for the inaugural Grand Prix back in 2001?
I did not. Oh, I know. So bad. I know. All right, so one of the things that I do is, let's see, maybe a little bit more history really quick, is that I started off all of this stuff in the graphic design world, right? And I did photography and I did art and all this stuff. But then I also, when websites first came out, I got really, I just nerded out and did everything with, I was like, oh, I can write entire websites just by coding HTML. And so I started learning all of that world. So I can understand both the complete entrepreneur side and the complete developer side when people are talking code. And I thought that was just a natural thing. But come to find out that it's, especially with entrepreneurs, there's oftentimes like a big clash in what it is that we want and knowing what it is that we need and translating that to the people that can help you, right? And so what I started doing several years back was a process that I now call technology road mapping. And it's basically, anybody here ever done like visual diagrams, flow charting, those kinds of things? It's basically taking that kind of a process and then just structuring that to use it to map out in your business. And just like Susan and I were talking at lunch is when you get into this, you're like, oh, and I'm gonna do a webinar and I'm gonna do this advertising and I've got this site and I've got this site. So all of a sudden you've got like 50 million pieces to your business. You don't know how the pieces connect. And so I started using this as a visualization tool for people to be able to see the process of your business. And then it also helps you focus on what's most important. Where do I need to stay like most important? And then how am I gonna expand? What are my next steps? And so that's a process that I wanna take you guys through. And I'm actually going to kind of break back into that at various different times as we're going through these 3 days. And so by the end of it, I want you guys to feel fully comfortable with how to draw your own technology roadmap and know what your business process looks like. Because when done effectively, you should be able to take that map and hand it off to anyone on your team and say, this is what we're building. And then there's no question when they're like, okay, so where are people coming from? And then how are we doing this? And what does it connect to and all that? Like it's all there. So that is what we're going to start with. If I can get to this, I need to get the slide projector on really quick. We'll see if by magic it actually works this time. Okay, so there's a very cryptic looking page in your book, page number 4. And there's this super simple legend because this really should be super simple. I've played with this all sorts of different ways and I want you guys to just be really, really comfortable with it. So basically, everybody in here has worked in Infusionsoft, correct? In Infusionsoft? Learning now, great, okay. And I know, Jeff, you used to work in it, and okay, coming back, all right. So in Infusionsoft, I've actually just taken a lot of what they have in terms of the process of this. So basically the circles, the oval type things, are things that we want to, they're actions that we want our prospects or customers to be taking. They're actions of like decision points that we're giving people. And then I use squares to map out, okay, once this action happens, here's all the steps that we want to have happen. And a lot of people will ask me, well, why don't you just map this in Infusionsoft? And the problem is that as much as we love Infusionsoft, or hate it, or both, depending on the moment, is that not everything that's part of our business process, all of our business systems, happens inside of Infusionsoft. There's too many other things, and I think that you need a map that covers your entire business process, and then you say this part happens in Infusionsoft, this part happens on my website, etc. So I personally, I'm going to go through this as a very simple tool. I personally use a service called Gliffy, Gliffy, but there's plenty of them out there that you can do this. So you guys will see my super simple, like a kid drew it drawing. And I started this way so that you guys are super comfortable with this process. So what we're going to start with here is from the point of a free access. Now, if you're not doing a free access, like a free membership, some sort of free access there, if you're jumping right into a paid thing like a lead magnet, or you're going straight into that point, just think that you would be substituting the free access for the paid part. So we're going to start with a free access point. Now, if you see on here, there are 2 arrows coming off of it. One is green, one is red. The green is our yes path. For every action point we have, we always want to have a what is the yes prognosis, what is the no prognosis. So we want to make sure that we're what the customer path, like what's going to happen for the customer or the prospect when they hit that action point, if they do it or if they don't. Does that make sense? All right. So on here, I put in, this is kind of a pretty oversimplified version, but we're going to, if we're doing a free access, we want to make sure that we're tagging them. We know that they were interested in the free access. We're putting them into Infusionsoft, right? We want to make sure we have all that information. We want to deliver the free thing. We want to make sure they get that. The delivery can be via email. The delivery can be right inside of your membership site. Super simple stuff. We want to make sure that we're sending them a welcome message and login reminders, because this is membership stuff. If we're driving them into the membership site, we want to make sure they know how to get in and that they're going to log in. We're going to make sure that they log in. And then we also, the point of the free thing is to get them into the paid thing. So we want to make sure that we're driving them to a paid thing, which is, it's getting awfully small, but that says purchase offer. And I'll make sure that you guys get all this drawing as well. So when it goes into a purchase, then, okay, when they purchase, we want to make sure we're tagging them that they've purchased. I didn't even put in here, but we want to make sure we're collecting the money, obviously. We want to deliver the purchase, and then we want to continue nurturing them, part of that onboarding process, like whatever that's going to look like. Are we encouraging them to go through our content? Are we nurturing them towards another upsell? Are we nurturing them towards like live office hours and make sure they get that? Whatever your program looks like, this is a super oversimplified version of the yes path, like all the way through. Does this make sense for everybody? Yes?
In the first box, something with LTN, what is that?
Oh, yes, sorry, that's one of my acronyms, long-term nurture. So if you're doing a consistent newsletter or whatever your kind of drip stuff is.
And what's the fourth box just before the purchase?
This one here? Yeah. That one's a drip with nurture, and I did like a sales upsell message. Again, like whatever your process is, we're just trying to get them to the next yes or to the next sale. Can everybody relate to this kind of a simple process? Okay. Then I want to look at also, so that was our yes path all the way through. So off of our